What does it mean to be human? Are we inherently good, or are we inclined to choose evil? If we could get away with anything, no consequences, would we choose to be good, or would we pursue hedonistic evil? These are the questions that Dante Zogratis, Black Clover's best villain, prompts the readers to think about. In this video, I'll explore what makes a good villain, who Dante is, as well as analyze what we've seen of his character so far. And finally, I'll offer a defense to the contention that he's a bad villain because he lost. I'll make the case for why he's the best villain in Black Clover so far. I know the arc hasn't concluded yet, but we are certainly moving past the setup phase and into the more climactic part of the saga. So it's worth analyzing what we've seen of Dante so far to have a better understanding of what we'll see from him in the future. Now, to begin, let's first briefly explore who Dante is. Dante grew up in the Spade kingdom. Bored and dissatisfied with life, he tried various things to find fulfillment. Intimate relationships left him empty. Joining up with the Spade Kingdom's military force and achieving victories alongside his peers left him longing for something greater. And he finds that something in making a deal with Lucifero, becoming devil-possessed. He executes a coup along with his siblings, killing the king of the Spade Kingdom and ascends to the throne. 16 years later, the world is still too dull for Dante. Now realizing that humanity's true nature is evil, he is attempting to open the Qliphoth, a magic channel that would connect the human world to the underworld, allowing devils to spill into the human world and subsequently filling it with evil. As a member of the Dark Triad, Dante exhibits at least one of 3 personality traits in the psychological Dark Triad that Dante, Zenon, and Monica are based off of: psychopathy, Machiavellianism, and narcissism. It's unclear if all 3 Triad members are meant to hold all 3 traits, and you can definitely make the case that they do. But I tend to believe that each of them are meant to portray one trait strongly. For Dante, I believe it's narcissism. We can see this in his attire. He wears a crown. He had the narcissism to believe he deserved to rule over the Spade Kingdom, and as such killed the king. He believes he's entitled to Vanessa and Gray. When using his body magic, he believes he's the strongest in the world, an unnatural phenomena that no one can stand against. He's typically seen standing above people, looking down on them, and we can even see his narcissism in his gravity magic, as he makes people grovel with it. Now, what makes a villain great? I believe a great villain is one who has a dynamic character arc, one who has a stark contrast to the hero, one with a realistic and complex motive, someone who is truly defined by their evil, who challenges our prior beliefs and gives us an emotional reaction, someone who makes us think, someone who we fear. I believe Dante definitely fits this criteria well. To see what makes Dante such a great villain, let's have a look back at chapter 242. In this chapter, we are just being introduced to Dante's character, and we see a glimpse of his motive, his ideological reasons for doing what he does. He gives a small monologue about what it means to be human. To him, being evil isn't a negative, it's a positive. To be called evil is a compliment to Dante. Here, he philosophizes on evil, on the emotion that is malice, calling it the supreme emotion. Because malice is something only humans have, he believes it is what defines humans. The only thing that brings him any satisfaction in life is being evil and exercising any malicious emotion that he can. In presenting this distorted philosophy to Asta, Dante makes us think. He challenges the normative perspective of evil that we all take for granted, while prompting the theme for this arc. What does it mean to be human? Asta answers this question by saying that while humans may be capable of evil, they also have the unique ability to control their malicious emotions. That this control is what truly makes someone human. In other words, humans have a strong sense of morality. We can control our bad emotions, and we have a sense of what is right and what is wrong. We can clearly see this taking place in the manga right now. While Dante wants to achieve 100% devil possession in order to achieve the pinnacle of evil, Asta wants to learn how to control his devil, to stop evil from entering the world and ending it. And while other videos have already gone over the contrasts between Dante and Asta, I think that this one is at the core of this arc. Remember, this arc kicked off with Damnatio trying to convict Asta of being a devil. Asta is trying to prove his innocence in this arc, and it's so fitting that Asta's adversary is exactly what Damnatio attempted to portray Asta as. Dante is just like a devil. And of course he is, he's devil possessed, but even as a human, Dante acts similarly to what the devils in the underworld are like. They're bored. Very much like Dante, they're hierarchical. And they need to kick down those who are weaker, to have any fun or satisfaction in their life. In the beginning of the arc, Damnatio's scales balanced out, but by the end, we will no doubt see Damnatio's scales of justice tip towards Asta. We've recently learned of a connection that Liba and Lucifero have, but there's still no clear physical connection to Asta and Dante himself like there is for Yuno and Zenon or Ivanica and Noel, at least for now. There is this ideological connection though that they have both established with this fight. Asta and Dante represent good versus evil taken to a philosophical extreme, and in doing so, it questions the nature of humans. So we have this deep connection to Lucifero with Asta and Liba concerning Lucita, as well as this deep philosophical connection between Dante and Asta as well, and probably something more will be revealed later on. All in all, the depth and complexity that Dante has offered to the story so far, while probably being only just now nearing halfway done with the arc, is incredible to say the least. Now, there have been quite a few people who take issue with Dante losing, presumably because he was built up to be the strongest triad, seeing as he is the host of Lucifero, the supposed Demon King, and also because he was the oldest sibling and seemed to have authority over Zenon and Ivanica. So, for a villain as prominent as him, some think he hasn't had a very good portrayal. But contrary to what some in the community have said, I think Dante suffering a defeat this early is actually a great thing for his character. So, before closing out, I'll offer a defense for Dante and address why I think his defeat is a great thing for his character and the story on a broader, more macro scale, as this seems to be something of a contention when discussing Dante's character. First, let's begin with the obvious. It subverts the reader's expectations. We saw Zenon wipe the Golden Dawn out, the so-called strongest squad in the Clover Kingdom, then we saw Ivanica wipe out the Heart Kingdom. So we all expected that Dante, presumably the leader of the Triad, the one with Lucifero, would no doubt wipe out the Black Bulls and take Yami. But that didn't happen at all, and as a result, we were all shocked to see Asta and Yami actually take Dante down. And perhaps it doesn't feel as good when we all just read week to week, but imagine being an anime only and all of a sudden opening 1 starts playing, or imagine binging the Spade Saga in the manga for the first time. It reads well in succession. So that's just one reason that Dante losing can be viewed as a good thing on the surface level, but it also helps Dante as a character. Tabata opted to make Dante lose, and this shows that Dante has somewhat of a character arc forming. It seems like rather than being the same static villain we have come to expect from someone like Zagred, or an underutilized, underdeveloped villain like Ladros or Veto even, we're seeing signs that Dante is going to be a more dynamic and complex villain than anyone in Black Clover so far. We see the evidence of this with Dante's characterization. This is a guy who has been largely dissatisfied with his life. The mundane life of his past doesn't give him the satisfaction he craves, but what does is malice. He seems to be in search of the nature of evil, the greatest type of malice, similarly to how Dante from Dante's Inferno was exploring the nature of sin and eventually found the greatest sin, betrayal. We saw Dante thank Yami for allowing him to experience a new type of malice, jealousy. With him being completely humiliated and humbled by Yami, and even worse, Asta, someone with no magic and the lowest ranking devil, Dante will awaken to a new type of malice, and as a result, we may see that dynamic shift in character that no other villain besides arguably Patri has seen so far. It's likely that the next time we see Dante, he won't be the same as before, and because of that, I think many, including myself, are excited to see Dante's return. Tabata has subtly built up hype for that. Couple that with Lucifero's connection to Asta and Liba, and we have the groundwork for the best villain in Black Clover so far, easily. Someone truly evil, who has a name, a backstory, a villain that is dynamic and actually undergoes a character arc closely related to Asta, unlike someone like Zagred. This is why Dante losing is a good thing. He's going to change as a character. Whereas if Dante had won, he would have walked away from that fight no different from when he entered it. So the contention that just because Dante lost, he's a bad villain doesn't hold up. In reality, the choice to make Dante lose will further his character arc, enhancing his character while also having reverberating effects for the broader narrative. Black Clover's villains have always been something of a weak spot in Tabata's writing for me. You look at One Piece's truly evil but intricate character Doflamingo, and then try and compare that level of writing to any villain in Black Clover, they just don't compare from a writing perspective. But with the points I have mentioned above, I think I sufficiently give justification to the idea that Dante will be that kind of villain, someone who encapsulates evil, while also having depth. Dante is the best villain in Black Clover so far, And I hope after watching this, you feel the same. Obviously, the arc hasn't ended yet, so we don't have a full picture of Dante, and as such, this analysis was limited. I'll almost certainly do another complete analysis for Dante when this saga ends, but for now, this is about everything I've been able to analyze about Dante in the manga so far. If you liked this analysis of Dante, be sure to leave a like, comment what you think, and subscribe for more Black Clover content in the future. I'd really appreciate the support. Thank you for watching.